want to start in Ukraine this hour, where officials say the capital was the target of a particularly intense air assault. Well, that barrage of Russian missiles lit up the skies over Kyiv. But Ukraine says it intercepted all of them, along with a number of drones. Russia, however, claims all of its targets were hit, including a US Patriot air defense system. Meantime, the head of the Russian mercenary Wagner Group says an American citizen has been killed fighting in the eastern flashpoint city of Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces are claiming substantial gains on the outskirts there. CNN's Sam Kiley is joining us from southeastern Ukraine, and I want to start, if we can, with a frightening night for residents of Kyiv. An attack launched, Sam, from the north, the south and the east. This was largely a failure, but it was a noisy night. Tell us what we are learning about what happened overnight and how that plays into the trajectory of this war at this point, Sam.
Well, Becky, I think the key issue here, and you put it in your intro very accurately, was the intensity of the attacks on Kyiv. This is a new tactic. We have seen the Russians in the past use mass formations across many different cities, many different targets, combining cruise missiles and swarms of the Iranian-made Shahed so-called drones. They're actually unguided, slow-moving missiles. This time, though, there was a focus of attention overwhelmingly on Kyiv, and the amount of time that the missiles were fired within was very truncated. This wasn't spread over many hours. It was clearly an attempt to try to find a chink in the air defenses of the Ukrainian capital by firing cruise missiles, Kalibr missiles, conventional missiles, and the Kinzhal, the hypersonic, so-called hypersonic missiles, all at more or less at the same time. That intent there was clearly to try to overwhelm the air defensives, and they failed significantly. Also, the Ukrainians are claiming that they shot down 6 Kinzhal missiles. That would bring a total of 7 that they say that they have shot down. Now, these were, according to the Russians, supposed to be invulnerable to conventional or traditional or contemporary air defenses because of the speed at which they travel. But we're learning now that they are actually not much more sophisticated than many other similar missiles that are in the armories, particularly of NATO countries, that often hit hypersonic speeds as they descend, and also their guidance systems are pretty primitive to non-existent, so they are not precision missiles in the way that a cruise missile might be. We've got no evidence whatsoever either to support the Russian claim that Patriot anti-missile batteries were destroyed. In terms of the trajectory of all this, Becky, I think that what we're seeing here is efforts being made by the Russians to try to counterattack and get inside the command and control systems of the Ukrainians ahead of their much vaunted ground offensive, Becky.
Yeah, and that ground offensive, of course, is one that we are anticipating, and no real detail being released on that, and perhaps understandably so. The Wagner Group playing a very significant role in this war on the Russian side, particularly in the fight for Bakhmut. Now, the head of that mercenary group claiming that a US citizen has died fighting in Bakhmut. What do you make of this claim?
Well, the Russian mercenary group Wagner has released video, which it purports to be from May the 16th, of Yevgeny Prigozhin, its leader, in Bakhmut. It's certainly in a town that appears to be the scene of some fighting. There is background noise of what might well be mortars. That's what we hear one of the soldiers on the Bakhmut front say, one of the Wagner mercenaries rather. He's inside a building. He then comes across the body of what he claims is an American soldier, including the identity documents. Now, there's no word yet from the US State Department, and obviously we would not be releasing a name for this person until we have official confirmation of who he is and what these circumstances were. But what's interesting, quite telling about this video is that Boris Prigozhin is quite respectful towards the dead soldier that was killed fighting on the Ukrainian side, whoever he is, saying that he will be given due honors and because he's assumed to be American, will be buried or rather covered with an American flag and his remains returned somehow to the United States because he put up a fight up until the last, Prigozhin says. So quite an intriguing statement from an otherwise rather contemptuous individual, perhaps, I suppose, not unconnected to the fact that he may fear that he could be returning one day to Moscow to face treason charges if the US intelligence documents are accurate in suggesting that he allegedly attempted to sell out his Russian comrades, to sell their locations to the Ukrainians in return for a softer ride for his own fighters in Bakhmut not that many months ago, Becky.
Sam Kiley's in southeastern Ukraine. Good to have you, Sam. The time there just after 6 in the evening. Thank you. Well, decades after Rosie the Riveter became a cultural icon in the United States, symbolizing the working women of World War II, women in Ukraine are taking on similar roles. They are increasingly doing jobs Ukrainian men had to abandon when they were called into military service. CNN's Nick Robertson with this report.
In a man's world, war is changing everything. Tatiana is at the vanguard, shattering Ukrainian coal mining history. A woman on her way to work 1,000 feet underground.
It's normal, it's okay now?
Yes.
Yes? It's good. Is it good? You like it, huh?
Yes, I like it.
You wanted to be a miner?
Yes.
Yeah. Your family, your grandfather,
Yes.
your father
Yes.
was a miner?
Yes.
Yeah.
She used to work above ground, but when miners got called up to fight and martial law cleared women for dangerous jobs, she jumped at a job deep in the mine.
I always wanted to work here, but girls were not allowed. When many men were conscripted, the mine had to keep working. So to protect our country, the girls stepped up.
She works 6-hour shifts, 3 days on, 1 day off, earns more than previously, and wants to keep her underground job when the war is over.
My work is not physically difficult. I like it a lot. I would like to continue working here.
In this bastion of male-dominated tradition, that may not be so easy.
I think when the war is over and we will win, I think women will return about the ground and do women's jobs.
Yet even Chief Engineer Alexander admits, without Tatiana and many other women, the mine could not have kept going.
Around 700 of our miners got called up to fight. Our women wanted to help both the mine and the country. So far, 46 women are working under the ground now.
There hasn't been a general mobilization of women, but plenty of traditional male-only workplaces are finding women stepping up and taking jobs that before the war would have only gone to men. Maria is among them for the love of Ukraine and of her husband.
I knew this theory, but the practice turned out to be a little harder.
She took up his blacksmith job when he got called up to fight last year. They bought the forge together a few years earlier, invested their future in it.
This is my husband's passion and his life's business. I decided to support him to keep his job alive while he is serving.
She shows me a video of husband Andrei working at the same anvil. Pre-war, his artwork, some Game of Thrones themed, selling in the US and Europe for hundreds of dollars. She is focusing on simpler stuff, ornate kebab skewers.
I very often cry in the forge here. My husband is defending us, and that is very dangerous. But this work helps me to hold on and not fall apart.
Women have been here before. Remember Rosie, the riveter, icon of women at work in World War II? She and others cracked the glass ceiling. More than a hint of Rosie in Maria, and perhaps of changes here too.
It's tiring work, but it's interesting. I would like to do it when I feel like it, not when I have to do it.
Maria, Tatiana, two of many who bravely stepped up. No doubt more challenges ahead. Nick Robertson, CNN, in a coal mine, eastern Ukraine.